Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 1, Episode 59. In the forest, a large number of troops were fleeing away in panic. In the front of the group, Gayi, who was completely covered with blood, had an extremely pale expression. The scar on his face twitched and looked particularly ferocious. As they witnessed the scar, the people nearby immediately felt a chill. "Big brother," Gayi called out cautiously, "are we going to hand this information to them just like this? If Mu Chen obtains the yin-yang spirit Zoisha, his strength will increase once more. When that happens..." Before he finished talking, Gayi threw a cold glare at him and made him shut up. Then Gayi slowly retracted his gaze and looked to the rear coldly. He gnashed his teeth and said, "How could it be easy for him to obtain the yin-yang spirit Zoisha? Did you believe that I didn't attempt to obtain the yin-yang spirit Zoisha because I was afraid of the three beasts?" Gayi glanced at Gayi and sneered. "Although the three beasts are quite powerful, there are ways to deal with them since they have low intelligence. However, we were not the only one who had targeted the rare worldly treasure, the yin-yang spirit Zoisha. Others have also discovered it?" Gayi was surprised. Those two groups are led by kind-hearted individuals. They have always been eyeing on the yin-yang spirit Zoisha. However, they feared each other, so they never attempted to obtain it. If Mu Chen were to head there, he would definitely cause a dispute with them. Gayi said coldly, "Although the bosses of the two groups were not from the spiritual road, their backgrounds aren't weak. By relying on a variety of resources, their strengths are in no way inferior to mine. Once Mu Chen tries to snatch the yin-yang spirit Zoisha in front of them, there will be a good show. At that time, we will secretly lurk around there. If there's an opportunity, we will completely destroy them and seize the yin-yang spirit Zoisha. With that, I will finally be able to attempt to break through into the spirit stage middle phase. With that strength, I will be considered as outstanding, even within the Northern Heavens world." Hearing this, Gayi immediately chuckled. "Big brother sure is wise. That boy truly thought that he had taken advantage of you. Who would have thought that it was all under Big Brother's calculations?" Gayi also let out a cold smile. However, Mu Chen's smiling and handsome face flashed through his mind again. He immediately shivered and forcibly suppressed those emotions. "In addition, you will spread this message out, that the spiritual road's blood calamity currently resides in the Northern Heavens world." Gayi gritted his teeth and had a dark expression. That guy had made many powerful enemies within the spiritual road. There must be quite a few of them throughout this Northern Heavens world. If they were to hear of this information, Mu Chen would definitely be in trouble. Yes! In the Ye clan's campgrounds, many people were still immersed in the battle earlier. Many individuals would direct gazes filled with awe and curiosity at the boy in the camp as they worked. Who would have thought that this seemingly gentle boy would actually be this terrifying? He was so powerful that even Gayi was completely beaten up by him. "Brother Mu Chen, you're so strong." Sunner did not hide her admiration for Mu Chen and stared at Mu Chen with her twinkling dark black eyes. This little girl, she did not know the concept of powerful. She only felt that Mu Chen was quite handsome and cool earlier. Mu Chen smiled and flicked at Sunner's twin tails, who was filled with vitality. At this moment, the Ye clan were packing up the campground in order to head to the place mentioned previously by Gayi. "Once our people approach that location, the majority of them will stay behind temporarily. We will only bring a few powerful individuals over to that location." Yiqingling walked over to Mu Chen as she spoke. Mu Chen nodded. It was definitely a terrible idea for many of them to approach that location together, as they would be easily discovered. The yin-yang spirit Zoisha is quite rare. Since Gayi managed to discover it, it might also mean that others would find it. "We must be careful," Mu Chen replied. Naturally, he was not so naive to believe that Gayi was being completely honest. Therefore, it was best for them to be careful. Yiqingling also bobbed her head in agreement. "However, we also have a secret weapon." Mu Chen smiled and rubbed Sunner's head. The little girl was also a rank 2 spiritual array master. Moreover, she possessed the heart array state. If she were to unleash her full combat abilities, even Yiqingling would be inferior to her. However, she was overwhelmingly lacking in combat experience, and while facing her opponents, she could easily panic. If a spiritual array master was to reveal such emotions in battle, his effectiveness would be cut by half. This rascal, Yiqingling was quite reluctant about this, Although Sun possesses a high talent in spiritual arrays and would be quite powerful if she displayed her strengths correctly, it was unfortunate that this rascal was timid and voracious. Seeing Ye Qingling's reluctant expression, Sun pouted her lips. Her sister gave her the cold shoulder again. After all, she is still quite young. As long as she hones herself, she will be able to be self-responsible eventually. Mu Chen felt that this was quite normal. After all, Sun was still too young. Moreover, she had always lived in a completely sheltered environment. Thus, as long as she obtained more experience, she would definitely become independent. Brother Mu Chen is the best. Sun hugged Mu Chen's arm and grinned. Ye Qingling glared at her for a moment. Then she turned around and ordered the others to speed up their pace. After approximately half an hour, the Ye clan was fully prepared to leave. Ye Qingling waved her hands and the large amount of troops surged out like a flood toward the northwest. This large wave of men naturally attracted a lot of attention. However, the Ye clan was quite well known in this region. When others noticed the Ye clan, they did not dare to reveal any bad intentions. Thus, aside from a few spiritual beasts, which they defeated quickly, their journey was extraordinarily smooth. They traveled almost the entire distance before they eventually stopped. There were a few chasms in the forest here. In the front, there were many mountains overlapping each other. A few of these steep mountains pierced into the clouds. Endless roars resounded from the mountains. The place that Gayi mentioned should be around here. Ye Qingling looked at the overlapping mountains as she tilted her head to talk with Mu Chen. Let's select a few individuals and prepare to enter the mountain. Mu Chen nodded slightly. This place was indeed quite hidden. If they did not look for it specifically, it would be difficult for them to detect it. Ye Qingling turned around and quickly selected 20-ish people from the Ye clan. Most of these people were at the spiritual rotation stage middle phase. However, they were exceptions, such as Wang Sheng, who had reached the spiritual rotation stage late phase. Mo Ling, you should wait together with them, Mu Chen informed Mo Ling. The latter also nodded. His strength wasn't quite prominent in this place. If he were to follow them, he would only be a burden to them. Let's go. After noticing that everything was in order, Mu Chen did not delay anymore and immediately waved his hand. He directly charged into the mountain. Then, Ye Qingling brought Sun, Wang Xing, and the others as they followed. In the mountain, there were many spiritual beasts. However, Mu Chen and the others' goal weren't the beasts. Thus, they never attacked them and avoided the formidable spiritual beasts as they headed straight into the depths of the forest. They ran for approximately 10 minutes before they stopped at a mountain slope. They gazed forward. At that location, there were 3 mountains intersecting with each other, which formed a valley. Many massive trees grew near the borders of the valley and formed a natural cover. Mu Chen and the others stood at the crest of the mountain slope as they glanced into the valley. They could vaguely feel the presence of 3 vicious auras. These auras were comparable to a spirit stage initial phase powerhouse. 3 spirit stage initial phase. Spiritual beasts. Mu Chen glanced at Ye Qingling and the others. Ye Qingling had a decent expression, while Wang Xing and the others' faces changed completely. They never hunted 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts at once before. We must quickly deal with these 3 spiritual beasts. Otherwise, the large commotion would attract other spiritual beasts and humans over. Mu Chen spoke slowly. There's no way we can rush it. In this place, only Brother Mu and Sister Ye have the ability to fight against high-ranked spiritual beasts alone. Wang Sheng smiled wryly. Mu Chen also smiled and said, leave these 3 spiritual beasts to me. It will be fine if you just pay attention to the other people's movements. Hearing these words, even Ye Qingling was stunned as she stared at Mu Chen. Mu Chen actually wanted to fight against 3 spirit stage initial phase spiritual beasts alone? This was much more difficult than fighting against Gayi. I'm not planning on fighting against them head-on. Mu Chen smiled slightly as he said, didn't Sun say it before? I am also a spiritual array master. Ye Qingling was stunned. Sun had indeed mentioned it before. However, she did not pay much attention about it. Moreover, so what if Mu Chen is a spiritual array master? How could he deal with 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts? That would be impossible unless he could arrange a powerful rank 2 spiritual array. Just when she was surprised, Mu Chen's fingertips flashed. Then Ye Qingling and the others were astounded as they noticed numerous spiritual seals slowly emerging from the fingertips. A total of 30 spiritual seals. Ye Qingling's lips parted. 30 spiritual seals? This guy was actually a rank 2 spiritual array master as well. Mu Chen slowly closed his eyes as his fingertips drew numerous trajectories. Then, the 30 spiritual seals quickly charged into the air in front of them and vanished. Afterwards, an amazing spiritual energy fluctuation slowly emitted. Upon seeing this, a hint of wonder flashed through Sunar's petite face. Her dark black eyes stared at Mu Chen as she muttered, "Brother Mu Chen could actually enter the heart array state as well." Ye Qingling's heart trembled again. Heart array state. Because of Sunar, she knew how powerful that state could be to a spiritual array master. She never imagined that Mu Chen was not only a rank 2 spiritual array master, but also someone like Sunar, who possessed the heart array state. As expected from a person who was assessed as a king class within the spiritual road, Ye Qingling sighed. Even though he was kicked out of the spiritual road in the middle, how is it possible for such a person to be ordinary? Mu Chen did not care about the shock that Ye Qingling and the others faced. His hand seals changed, and a golden spiritual array slowly expanded out in front of him. As the spiritual energy fluctuations came out of the array, it instantly distorted the air around it. A golden spiritual array slowly expanded out from the air in front of Mu Chen. As the complex spiritual energy light beams interweaved with each other, they emitted extremely violent spiritual energy fluctuations. Ye Qingling and the others weren't spiritual array masters. Naturally, they weren't able to understand spiritual arrays. However, Sunar was staring at the array seriously. In her eyes, the complex and obscure spiritual energy light beams were like channels of power transmission. They gradually perfected the entire spiritual array. Mu Chen slowly opened his tightly shut eyes. He lifted his head and stared at the massive golden array with a serious expression. It was the first time for him to use his own strength to arrange a rank 2 spiritual array. This spiritual array was the rank 2 spiritual array that Mu Feng had painfully searched for and found shortly before Mu Chen left the northern spiritual realm. Regarding about this array, Mu Chen had long ago learnt it by heart. However, because the amount of seals he could condense was lacking, he had never attempted to arrange it, but now he was capable of doing so. Next up, I'll have to trouble you. After the spiritual array was successfully completed, Mu Chen smiled at Ye Qingling. Hearing this, Ye Qingling was dumbstruck. Then Sunar laughed joyfully and said, "Sister sure is stupid. Brother Mu Chen wanted you to lure the 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts over so he could kill them with his spiritual array." Ye Qingling stared at Sunar for a while and immediately nodded. However, she hesitated for a moment and asked, "Are you certain that your spiritual array is capable of killing 3 high-ranked spiritual beasts?" Although Mu Chen's rank 2 spiritual array was quite impressive, a high-ranked spiritual beast's skin was quite tough and sturdy. They had a powerful defense. It was probably quite difficult for the array to massacre all of them in one attack. "Relax, I know what I'm doing." Mu Chen smiled slightly. Once she heard these words, she lost her hesitation and gave instructions to the crowd. Then, her lovely figure dashed off into the valley. "Sunar!" Mu Chen stared at Ye Qingling's fading figure before he turned his gaze toward the surrounding mountains. He narrowed his eyes and beckoned Sunar over. Then, he slowly whispered into her ears. Just when Mu Chen and the others were preparing to take action, on the opposite side of the mountain, 2 figures entered into 2 nearby camps. There were many people inside each camp, each having nearly 100 people. "Boss, someone's targeting the yin-yang spirit Zoysia." In a camp, a figure suddenly stood up once he heard this information. He was dressed in white and had a face filled with arrogance. He sneered once he heard the message and asked, "Who? Could it be Gayi? He actually has the courage to do so?" "It's not Gayi, it's another clan. It seems to be the Ye clan," someone replied. "Ye clan? Ye Qingling?" The boy in white frowned before he let out a brilliant smile. "So it's that beauty. She truly is courageous. She actually dares to target something that I've taken a fancy to. Boss, what should we do?" "What do you mean by what should we do?" "Immediately prepare to take action. Since that beauty dares to steal from me, then I'll capture her as well." "Ha ha ha." The boy in white laughed. He waved his hand and immediately charged out of the camp. A large amount of troops quickly followed him. As they rushed out towards the center of the mountain, a large number of troops also exited the other camp. Roar. Shortly after Ye Qingling entered the gorge-like valley, deafening roars rang out and caused the valley to tremble. A violent spiritual energy suddenly arose from within the valley. Swish! Ye Qingling's tender figure was wrapped in spiritual energy and turned into a figure of light. She charged out of the valley like lightning. Behind her, 3 blue giant birds rushed out. As they flapped their wings, spiritual energy billowed and covered their claws as they attempted to grasp onto Ye Qingling. Ye Qingling's body was like a falling leaf in the winds. She would gently sway and completely evade the attacks from the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts. However, the violent spiritual energy fluctuation still made her body unsteady. With just her strength, it wasn't easy for her to pin down 3 high-rank spiritual beasts. While Ye Qingling brought the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts towards the mountain slope, where Mu Chen and the others were residing at, Mu Chen's expression gradually turned more solemn as he fixed his sight on the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts. The golden spiritual array slowly circulated and emitted a golden spiritual energy. The golden light became brighter and brighter as if it was crafted by actual gold. Prepare to intercept. Mu Chen turned his head towards Wang Sheng and the others. Yes, Wang Sheng and the others immediately responded. The spiritual energy within their bodies surged as they stared at the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts that were approaching them. Every single one of them was waiting for the instant Ye Qingling would enter their attack range. Then dense spiritual energy erupted and bombarded against the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts behind Ye Qingling. Bang bang! Numerous attacks landed on the 3 high-rank spiritual beast bodies and sparks flew. However, the 3 high-rank spiritual beast bodies were as tough as steel. The attacks failed to do any damage to them, but at the very least they had managed to slow them down. By relying on this brief moment, Ye Qingling escaped the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts and landed quickly on top of the mountain slope. She stared at Mu Chen, and her voluptuous chest gently bounced as she muttered, "It's your turn now." Mu Chen nodded with a smile. His sharp eyes stared at the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts that were approaching the mountain slope. Then, he gently placed his hands together, and the golden spiritual array behind him instantly emitted a brilliant golden light. A ferocious spiritual energy surged from the array. Li! The 3 high-rank spiritual beasts seemed to be aware of the dangerous fluctuations emitting from the golden spiritual array, and they immediately slowed down. Cries rang out from their mouths as a dense spiritual energy filled their bodies. Golden Revolution Soul Reaver Array? A cold light flashed through Mu Chen's eyes. A piercing cry suddenly resounded from his mouth. At this moment, a dazzling golden light arose like a sun. As the golden light gathered, the array trembled and a massive, brilliant golden light blasted from the spiritual array. Buzz! The golden light rushed out and immediately turned into a sharp, jagged golden wheel. The light wheel rotated crazily as it let out a buzzing sound. Then the golden light extended out uncertainly as if it had ripped apart the air. Go! Mu Chen's fingers touched it for a moment. Afterwards, the golden light wheel blazed like golden lightning toward the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts. As the golden light wheel rushed over, the feathers of the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts were standing up straight. A hint of panic seemed to flash through their eyes. It was evident that they detected the danger from this golden light wheel. The 3 high-rank spiritual beasts hesitated for a moment before they suddenly turned around to flee. They immediately extended their wings in order to fly away. After all, a high-rank spiritual beast possessed a little bit of intelligence and knew how to act to avoid impending doom. They were certain that they would die if they were to be hit by the dangerous golden wheel directly. You want to run? Seeing this, Mu Chen smiled. He had spent a great effort in order to arrange the rank 2 spiritual array. Wouldn't it be a huge loss if he let these 3 high-rank spiritual beasts escape? Swish! With Mu Chen's thoughts, the golden light wheel's speed accelerated and was like golden lighting within the sky. It rapidly caught up with one of the high-rank spiritual beasts and landed on its body. The high-speed rotating golden light wheel possessed a terrifying destructive power. Even against a high-rank spiritual beast, which possessed a powerful defense, it still tore through the layers of defense and pierced through its body. Blood sprayed out within the sky. With a sharp cry, the high-rank spiritual beast fell from the sky. The golden light wheel did not disappear after defeating one of the high-rank spiritual beasts. It immediately caught up with the 2nd and 3rd spiritual beasts and ripped through their bodies as well. A large amount of blood fell down from the sky like a cloud of blood. After it pierced through 3 high-rank spiritual beasts, the spiritual energy of the golden light wheel was depleted and it faded away gradually. Mu Chen stared at the bloody mist. He could feel that the other 2 high-rank spiritual beasts were still alive and was not instantly killed like the first one. After all, the golden light wheel had consumed quite a bit of spiritual energy after it had eliminated the first spiritual beast. From the bloody mist, a fierce and brutal cry resounded out. The 2 high-ranked spiritual beasts charged over fiercely as their eyes locked onto Mu Chen. They immediately flapped their wings and rushed over directly towards him. "Be careful!" Seeing this, Yaqingling was stunned and immediately attempted to help. However, Mu Chen did not retreat. Instead, he let out a sneer. "It's a powerless action." Swish! Mu Chen's hands clenched tightly, and once again, spiritual seals integrated themselves into the air. A lightning quickly condensed behind him and rapidly formed into a lightning array. 9 heavenly lightning spiritual array. Boom! A violent lightning descended like a dragon onto the 2 gravely injured high-rank spiritual beasts. Bang! As they were struck heavily, blood sprayed out from the 2 high-rank spiritual beasts. In the end, they let out a pitiful cry before they fell down. On the side, Yaqingling, Wang Xing, and the others stared at Mu Chen. They were shocked that he was actually capable of rapidly condensing a second spiritual array to continue his assault. The speed in which Mu Chen arranged the spiritual array was way too fast. If only Sunner could arrange a spiritual array like this, Yaqingling thought. When Mu Chen arranged the spiritual array, he was so calm that nothing could influence him. All his fear and panic was completely isolated by him. As for Sunner, she would fail in arranging a spiritual array when she was frightened. It was truly unknown how long it would take before she could perform the same feat as Mu Chen. "You can follow me after you collect these spiritual beast soul essences," Mu Chen muttered to Yaqingling and the others after he defeated the 3 high-rank spiritual beasts. Then he immediately dashed over into the valley. In a few short seconds, he had already entered the depths of the valley. The valley was quite verdant and had plenty of spiritual aura. Moreover, there were a variety of spirit fruits containing spiritual aura within the valley from spirit trees. This place was truly what Gayi had said. It was a place filled with treasures. Mu Chen's eyes only glanced at them for a moment before he immediately headed into the depths of the valley. Although these spirit fruits were decent, they weren't something that he needed. After a while, Mu Chen finally stopped. His eyes were firmly fixed on a mountain slope. At that location, a lush emerald clump of light had gathered. Inside the clump of light, he could vaguely see a tiny emerald spirit zoysia. From its appearance, it looked like a polished jade as it was sparkling and translucent, an amazing spiritual energy slowly being emitted by it. Mu Chen stared at the emerald spirit zoysia eagerly. Yin-yang spirit zoysia. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.